And continuing right along with permanent sterilization methods, the last thing that was mentioned was the complete removal of the fallopian tubes. And then we come to male sterilization. Male sterilization, unlike female sterilization, is reversible. In many cases, this is an outpatient procedure almost exclusively to have a vasectomy. It's a local anesthetic, and you go home and put a pack of peas on your stuff and you're good to go for the next day. It's a very, very quick procedure, and it's also reversible in the event that you change your mind and you would like more children. Versus female sterilization, there is usually a surgery involved, and it's almost always under general anesthesia. So these types of devices, such as the Assure, are permanent. They are not reversible. So when women make those decisions, not only is it a pretty significant surgery, it's not groundbreaking or anything, but you still have to go to surgery. There's still healing time. There's pain. You may have to take a couple of days off, and it's permanent. It's also a lot more intricate than simply having a vasectomy, which is reversible. So this is an option that many men don't choose to go with, versus just simply having the woman have her tubes tied. So that's also something that you should think about and weigh the options of, do I want to have surgery on my body versus this is a reversible procedure over here. So then you don't have to be ladled with birth control, such as the pill or an IUD or anything else. And this would actually allow you to continue on naturally. So that's something that, in my opinion, should be often considered because of the reversible nature, and it's often not. So just think about it, ladies. After going through years and years and years of taking the birth control pill, then after you have children, then you are now going to have a female sterilization, versus really your husband or your boyfriend can have a vasectomy and it's reversible, and you don't have to go through any of that. That's something that many women don't actually know about, that they're not presented with that option. Oftentimes, it's not even considered to be an option for some people in a relationship, and I think that is unfortunate. And I'm here to share all of that information with you so that you can make the best choice for yourself, for your own body, and for your relationship. So there is my sermonette in the form of a public service announcement to our women and also for our men, because when you care about your women, when you care about the women in your lives, you want to think about what the birth control can do and some of the negative side effects that can be a result of that. So this is also not just for you or the woman, it's really for the relationship and looking at the total care of the woman, because there are side effects to any hormone or abnormal substance that you put in your body. You will have side effects. So there is all of the information for you. I hope that you make the best choice with the information that you have. And then other forms of contraceptive, as we have talked about, the abstinence only viewpoint, that really doesn't work as far as preventing unplanned pregnancies. The Center for Disease Control, Planned Parenthood, and a variety of other researchers have shown that abstinence only education is ineffective in preventing unplanned teenage and adult pregnancies in women. So this is something that, yes, we're talking best case scenarios, particularly if you are extremely religious. Absolutely. It's best case scenario. We always hope for the best and plan for the worst. So there should always be a contingency plan, because life happens. And then, of course, the withdrawal method. That method has some error to it as well. It is preferable because I've heard guys say all the time, you can't feel anything when you have a condom on and it feels different. Well, how would your wallet feel being drained for the next 18 years with child support and other types of payment versus the feel of a condom? So go ahead and make that decision for yourself. I'm here for you. I'm just presenting you some very real life types of effects that can happen with the withdrawal method. It's not the most effective. Number one, it's going to depend on the man actually pulling out in time. And number two, you can still get pregnant from before you fully ejaculate. There are still sperm in the pre-cum, so it's not really the best method. I don't recommend it, but to each his own. And then breastfeeding. This one, the lactation amenorrhea method, that method is not always effective. That method can sometimes be effective for women who are exclusively breastfeeding, and that's all. But for some women, they have done this and still ended up pregnant. So I probably would not use that as a form of birth control only by itself, because there are different success rates with that. So make your informed decisions based on everything that you have. Emergency contraception. I'm sure everyone has heard of the morning after pill, and I'm bumping down to the second two bullets here. We talk about Plan B and Ella. These are basically contraceptive pills, or one single pill that you take after you have had unplanned sex. Now, there are some issues with these types of contraceptives. Some research has shown that women over a certain weight, and I want to say it was about over 165 or 75 pounds, that this emergency contraceptive becomes a lot more unreliable. Those studies have been recalled, but some people still believe that that information is true. 160 pounds is really not that heavy, and a lot of American women fall within that category. Plan B, or emergency contraceptive, also only works if you have not ovulated yet. If you have already ovulated and it's really not going to work, it says it can help to stop the implantation of a fertilized egg, but it's not a known fact. It is a supposed. So you have to also consider that you should know your cycle pretty well and your ovulation cycle well if you need to resort to the Plan B. And I would also like to say that this Plan B pill, the over-the-counter Plan B pill, has, even though it's expensive, it's $50. Raising children is a lot more expensive. It has not gone up in price in a very long time. And I want to say over 10 years, this has been available over the counter, and it has been $50. So that is wonderful news as far as pricing for women. It's expensive when you don't have a lot of money, especially for lower income women. I know that if you have the green family packed card that you can qualify for here at the Pierce College Health Center, it goes on income that you self-report. They do not check. I'm not saying lie. I'm saying that it's self-reported income. If you have that green family packed card, it provides you with female-related services, pap smears, breast screenings, etc., and also birth control options. The Plan B is, I believe it's only $7 or $12, but you check with the Health Services Center here at Pierce College, but it's not very expensive if you have that. And then there's also the abortion pill, which is really a two-step process that terminates the pregnancy. And then, of course, high-dose birth control pills taken within just a couple of days after sex. When we look at failure rates, of course, condoms are extremely effective. The pill is extremely effective. And then we have some other ones such as diaphragms and some spermicides that are not as effective. We're talking about failure rates. The pill, IUDs, things are 99% effective. That's amazing. And then there's always the anomalies that fall into the 1% and become pregnant on birth control. I have a girlfriend actually who became pregnant while she was on birth control. Very, very, very rare, but it does happen. So there are failure rates, and be sure to check about those failure rates when you're looking at the different types of contraceptive methods that you are interested in. And so I already went over that one. I'm just going to go ahead and skip. And I forgot to mention the rhythm method, which is also knowing when you ovulate. A woman ovulates round about the 14th day of the cycle. Day 1 of the cycle is the day that you start your period, not the day that you start spotting, unless it is heavy spotting, and then it's considered day 1. So day 14 is the day that you ovulate, but sperm can remain in the system for anywhere between 3 and 5 days, sometimes even 6 days. So if you know that cycle, then the family planning method or the rhythm method will work well. When we're talking about unplanned pregnancy, and then we're going to get into the subject of abortion, which is very tricky. There's always an open or closed adoption that some women opt to do. Many women choose not to do that for various reasons, which we will not judge for here. And then there is abortion, which is the termination of pregnancy. And late-term abortions are outlawed. Most abortions are, I want to say 24, 26 weeks that they are allowed to do that with a small surgical procedure, and then anything that's above that, there is a larger procedure that needs to be done, or at least under heavier sedation, it takes a little bit longer. There's more bleeding and there's more recovery time. And you cannot use the abortion pill if I believe you are past, I want to say it's 7 or 8 weeks, but I have to double check on that as well. Okay, so now we'll talk about abortion, and that is the termination of pregnancy. Super controversial. I mean, there's always backlash. Every political election that comes around, are you on pro-life? Are you on pro-choice? Let me just say this, because I'm not advocating for a position here. I respect and understand people on the pro-life side because life is valuable. I respect and understand people on the pro-choice side because sometimes when we look at pro-life, people advocate for the life of the baby and then they want to wash their hands once the child gets here, so that child is born in squalor and poverty. And some women don't want to just perpetuate a cyclical effect of childhood poverty, which leads to higher rates of high school and college dropout or attendance, and higher rates of crime, higher rates of incarceration. So while I'm not promoting either side, I'm giving you a viewpoint into why people make these decisions. Some women, poor people do have larger amounts of abortions, but middle-class women also do as well, because it's expensive to raise a child, and when you're barely scraping through on 2 incomes, especially in Southern California, it can become especially expensive with another child. And then some people are just saying, we'll just go ahead and adopt. There's no reason to abort. It's unethical. It's immoral. And those viewpoints have to be respected too, because they have legitimate arguments on that side as well, particularly if you are religious. And then there's also the separation between church and state. So if your argument is religious, then we can go ahead and null it right there, because there is a legal separation. But it doesn't mean that from a personal standpoint or a community standpoint, your argument for being pro-life is invalidated. So these are reasons why people argue on both sides of them. Some people are not ready to have a child. We have kids raising kids. I taught in the public school system, and I legitimately had a 7th grader who was pregnant. She was 12 years old, the same age as my daughter, 12 years old and pregnant. Some women just want to go to work. Some women have to work. It has to be a 2-income earner household. Not being able to afford it, being a single parent, sometimes there's issues too of incest and rape. And while the pro-life stance has to be respected no matter the cause, we're also not necessarily in a position to tell someone who has been raped that they are forced to carry the child of their abuser, especially when in many states the abuser also has a right to visitation and custody. So that can be very complicated. Now, some women choose to go through with a birth because they are very pro-life and they protect the sanctity of life, even when there has been instances of abuse or incest. And we have to respect everybody's viewpoint because we don't know the rationales as to why they did what they did. And once again, it's not a judgmental type of thing. People make decisions that are based on their experiences, their mental and their physical health, their economic situations, and more. So we want to hear both sides of the argument, not necessarily agree. If you're pro-life, be pro-life. Staunchly. Stick to your beliefs if they are true beliefs. If you're pro-choice, the same applies. Stick to your beliefs. But we need to understand why, so that we don't have contention in society, so that there is not a short staffing on women's rights as well, because sometimes it can lead to unsafe abortions in third world countries and other states where the abortion clinics and family planning clinics are being shut down. So it is very unsafe. In the 70s, that was common to have back alley abortions, and women would sometimes bleed out. So it's important for us to look at different perspectives, knowing these are some of the perspectives for Hispanic, white, and Black populations, many of whom already have a child. 3 in 10 have 2 or more children. And then, of course, women in poverty are more likely and usually have more abortions than wealthy women because, once again, economics is a huge factor. So as you complete your assignments this week, as you look at the discussion board, stick to your viewpoints, but also be compassionate and understanding why people choose the decisions that they do. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just gives you a background and a wide view understanding so that we can have conversations with people we can be disagreeable. We can disagree without being disagreeable. So I hope you enjoyed this information and have found it greatly beneficial, and good luck with the rest of the chapter.